we just want to thank you for taking some time out of your day to join us as we talk about college planning. And we'll talk through some other savings options as well in case you're interested in savings outside of college. But I want to thank you guys for joining us. My name is Travis Mays with Prime Capital Investment Advisors here in Little Rock. I am joined today by my colleague, Autumn Mack. So despite what you may see, that is not Brennan McCutcheon. But Autumn works here in our office with us. We're extremely thankful to have her. She wears many hats around here and keeps us all in line. So we'll talk here in a second. You'll understand why she's part of the call today, but just wanted you all to see her and get to meet her. Little housekeeping, we are recording this webinar today. So if you miss portions of it, if you have to drop off early or anything, or if you find this information useful and you want to pass it along to somebody, we're going to send out the recording once this is done. But you can also always find this on our website. So you see that there at the bottom, PCIA-littlerock.com. There's an events page. And so any webinar information that we have and any recordings are out there for you. So you can go watch them at any time. I completely agree with you, Carol. So Carol says that Autumn is much prettier than Brennan.
Thank you, Carol. I'll tell him you said so.
Brennan's not here to defend himself, so I'll leave it at that. But yeah, so we're glad you guys have joined us today. For those that may not know, we kind of have two sides of our business. We work with companies on their qualified plans. So think 401k, 403b. So you may be familiar with us through that avenue. And we get to help serve a lot of participants that way, preparing for retirement. And the other side of our business is we work with several hundred families individually, helping them save outside of their work plans to prepare for retirement well too. So whichever avenue you come to us today, we're just thankful you're here and thankful you've joined us. So if you have any questions, feel free to drop those at the bottom of your screen. There's a question and answer button as well as a chat feature. Feel free to plug any questions or comments in there, and we'll be monitoring those as we go, and we'll answer those. So to kick us off today, this is where I'm going to let Autumn talk a little bit, but wanted to kind of just let you know as we talk about this topic of saving for kids and college planning, we get it. So we're kind of in different stages here. So my daughter, Lindsay, there on the left-hand side of your screen with the red curly hair, will turn 2 next month. So it's gone by very, very quickly, but she is a joy. But we are in the very, very early stages of this game of saving for her and saving for, her college or future expenses. So we're very much on the early end of that side. Autumn, on the other hand, is coming up on the back end of that side. And so that's really why I wanted her to join in today. She's got a ton of experience in this area. And so I just wanted her to kind of share her story with you guys so you could hear that with her girls, but then also hear some of her thoughts as we talk about some of these topics. So Autumn, why don't you kind of walk through a little bit of...
Yeah, those are my two beautiful children. You can tell they're a lot older than Travis is. So like he said, I've been there and I'm right in the thralls of everything that we're about to talk about. So I've got a younger one that's in 11th grade and she is preparing for college. And then I have the older one in the black who is a senior in college. So she'll be graduating in May. So you want to say woohoo, but it's really not woohoo because sometimes they never leave, and I don't see her leaving anytime soon. So they're expensive now, and from what I hear, they continue to be expensive. So we're going to talk about a couple ways to kind of take measures to combat some of the things that are coming your way, which, like I said, that I'm right in the thick of right now. So hopefully it will help you answer some questions that I had. I haven't always been in this business. And so I wasn't as savvy when my kids were younger. So there are a lot of things that I wish I had done and shoulda, coulda, wouldas that I wish somebody had told me. So that's kind of why I am on the call today.
Fantastic. So like she said, we're going to talk about some of those very practical things on the back end, some things that, we would recommend for you to do or wish we would have done differently and those kind of things. To start off today, I'm just going to give you some information that all of you are, it's not going to be anything new to you. And then we're going to walk through some of the accounts and different things, the very, what I would call the nuts and bolts of saving for kids. And then we're going to get to kind of where I feel like is a great place to land, which is the practical application of what do you need to be thinking about? What are the steps that you can do, no matter what stage you're in? So here are the things that we all already know. Autumn was just talking about this. Kids are stinking expensive. So some of these numbers, when you pull them up, are like, wow, like this makes you wonder why in the world we all do this thing. But when you look at kids from a financial perspective, again, love kids. We can talk about all the great things about kids, but from a financial perspective, the reality is that kids are very, very expensive. So I just pulled two quick stats. I honestly could have filled up this page. I told Autumn I debated filling up this page, but I felt like these two gave us a really good insight into kind of how expensive kids are. But I mean, when you see that to raise a kid until age 17 will cost cumulatively around $300,000, that's a lot of money. And if you'll notice there, the note there at the bottom, that doesn't include education and the things we're going to talk about today. So kids can be expensive. On the flip side of that, if you look at the other side of the page, what you see is, to Autumn's point, we see a lot of kids that still very much rely on their parents, even after the age of 18, for some kind of support to kind of help them get started in life. So with those things in mind, what we're going to do today is we're going to walk through, okay, what do we think about from a college perspective? Because today, a little bit of the focus is on college and college planning and college accounts. But as we go through this, we're going to weave in some things that aren't specific to college either, that you can save even if you don't know if your kid is going to go to college or if you just want to save outside of that. So really quickly, to kind of give everybody a landscape. So everyone knows college is expensive. You see it on the news. If you are in any kind of stage of life where you're visiting colleges or going on college trips, you see this. You see these live numbers. But if you look at from 1980 until now, general inflation has gone up around 285%. You compare those to what tuition and books and things that are related to college expenses, and those numbers are substantially higher. And so those are the things that we all feel as kids get ready to prep for college and why saving is so important. But I wanted to kind of give you some practical numbers of what it costs today. So I just went online. These are all public websites that you guys can pull up at any point in time. Full disclaimer, I actually went to the University of Central Arkansas and then ended up working there for a while in their scholarship division, in compliance division. So I'm familiar with a lot of these back end numbers, and they amazed me just since I have not been at UCA at how high these numbers have gotten. But it doesn't matter what institution you really look at. I mean, you see the undergraduate numbers, kind of on campus. I mean, it doesn't matter which institution you pick. We're in the $25,000 to $30,000 range a year. Now, these are cost of attendance. This is before scholarships. This is before grants, loans, anything like that. But those are large numbers. And so that's why it's important for us to start saving and start saving as soon as we can. We have people ask us all the time, like, hey, my kid is, 15. Is it too late? Never too late to start. So we always tell people start somewhere, wherever you're at, but try to start yesterday because it does make a difference the longer you have to save. So with that being said, let's kind of take a moment. So I'm going to slow down for these next two slides and talk through some specifics of types of accounts. So if you guys have any questions here as I walk through this, again, throw it in the chat feature, throw it in the Q&A. But we're going to walk through the types of accounts you are probably familiar with or have heard about related to saving for kids. So this first account here, these 529 accounts, these are the accounts that are sponsored by your state. So if you're in Arkansas, they've changed the name a few times. I think right now it's called Brighter Futures, I believe is what the name of the 529 plan is called. But these accounts are specifically for saving for education. So if you were thinking, hey, I'm going to save for college, I'm going to save for K through 12 trade schools, all these kind of things. If you've heard about 529s, traditionally what you've heard is these are college savings accounts. Several years ago, they widened the range of the expenses or the qualified educational expenses that they call them that qualify for you to use these funds. So now if you have K through 12 expenses that qualify, you can use that. If you have a child who doesn't go to college but wants to attend a trade school, so think HVAC, think electrical, think plumbing, all these types of things, you can use these funds for that as well. So the big kind of pro to using these types of accounts are some tax advantages that we do get. So depending on the state that you live in, there may be a tax advantage on the state level as far as the deduction goes. And then if you use these for educational expenses, then there's really not any tax burden on the back end. Now, let's pause there for a second and say, this is where it becomes really important of what those educational expenses are. So if we use these types of funds in 529s for expenses that aren't educational related, that's when we do have to pay the taxes on the back end. And depending on what you use it for, you could also be assessed a penalty for using that for those kind of funds. So this is where traditionally people have been a little hesitant to use 529 plans. What if I oversave in this and my kid, does really well and gets scholarships and doesn't need the money? What do I do with it then? Because if I take it out for non-educational reasons, then I might be penalized and have to pay the taxes on that. What if I have a kid who doesn't go to college or doesn't go to trade school and just, I tell people all the time, there's a lot of professions out there. I think, the first one my mind goes to in the world we're in right now is real estate. I know a lot of real estate agents who do really well that didn't require any of these schools, right? So there are situations out there where you may say, what if I get money in these types of accounts and don't need it for education? There has been a new allowance made. So just the end of last year, you may have heard something called Secure Act 2.0, some legislation that was passed relating to retirement and savings vehicles, like college savings and different things like that. And one of the things they did add is that now you have the option to take any money that's left over inside of these 529 accounts and roll it into a Roth IRA for the beneficiary on that account. So if you have your child listed on that account and you want to roll those funds into a Roth IRA on their benefit, you're still subject to the Roth contribution limits every year, but up to, I think it's around $24,000. All right, everybody. For some reason, we just lost power at our building here in Little Rock. So I apologize for that. It's a first. So we've never had a webinar in progress while this happened. So I apologize. So excuse my horrible camera feed now, and let me get our presentation pulled back up and we'll keep rolling. Okay. Can somebody that's on the call, can you give me either in the Q&A in the chat, can you just give me a quick message and tell me that you guys can still hear me and see everything? All good. Thank you, Jennifer. Okay. So again, I apologize about that, y'all. I don't know what just happened, but the whole building just went down. So, so we had a question from Jerry, eligible college expenses, a list of that. So your 529 specific to your state will actually give you those eligibilities. So what I would encourage you to do, if you're in the state of Arkansas, you can Google Arkansas 529 plan, and that will come up very, very quickly at the top of the page. And it will walk you through what some of those qualified educational expenses are. If you do a little research and you're still uncertain, please reach out to me and I'll help you dig through that and see if what you're looking at will apply. Same thing if you're in a different state. So I've worked with some of you that may be in different locations that we serve. And what that will allow you to do as well is be specific to those states. So Autumn, if you don't mind, will you make me a host again really quickly?
I will. That was fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just as a recap, those 529s, the big benefit to them, obviously get some tax advantages. They allow us to save for education and different things like that. But you just do have to be aware of some of the guardrails around them as far as I've got to use them for educational expenses and things like that. So I will tell you personally, again, I was trying to give you some of our experience. I use a 529 account for my daughter that I've started saving in. It's just an easy way to save. We're saving a portion of hers in this 529 account. I also have another account that we'll talk about in the next slide that I'm saving for her in the event that we need it for something else, right? We need it for braces or a car or a wedding or all these different things. So we'll talk about that in a minute.
Do you know, Travis, Jerry wanted to know if you can transfer your 529 from another state to Arkansas.
That is a good question, Jerry. Because they are state sponsored, I'm going to answer that question with I don't know, but I will get you the answer. How does that sound, Jerry? My experience in the past has been because they're state sponsored, you can transition them, but they can't. They will leave those state rules. So you just have to be aware when you're moving from one state rule to another. Are there any things that are different about them that you're giving up? So, like for example, I know it sounds confusing, but for example, some state plans allow you to go to any institution, educational institution, no matter what state that's in. Some of them say, no, you can only use these for specific states. So you just want to be aware of those rules when you go to transfer them, but I will get you a more thorough answer on that. So is that our only question so far, Autumn, that we haven't answered?
I forgot to unmute myself. Yeah, the only other thing was somebody said the slide went down, which I'm sure you addressed before I got back on here.
Yeah, I apologize about that. So,
okay,
okay, so that's the 529 accounts. Coverdell ESA accounts. So these ESA stands for Education Savings Accounts. These are other accounts that are specifically designed for education. They do have some tax advantages to them. The thing you want to be aware of with the Coverdell ESA accounts is that they're a lower contribution limit. So like with a 529 account, you have some pretty high contribution limits, like in the teens of thousands. With Coverdell ESA accounts, those are limited to around $2,000 a year is all you can fund in those. So you just want to be aware of some of that. Another thing that applies is there are some income limits. So if you make over a certain amount of money and you want to participate in a Coverdell ESA account, there's going to be some limitations that come in from a tax perspective and things like that. So Coverdell ESAs, when they first came out, were very, very popular. as some of these other options have come on, we've personally seen them get less popular, but there are still people that use them. So I want you to be aware of that option as well. Since we lost a little bit of time with our power outage, I'm gonna kind of move along through some of these. But again, if you have questions, stop us and ask it. Next thing that you see are what's called UDMA or UGMA accounts. So UDMA, Uniform Trust of Minors Act, UGMA, Uniform Gift of Minors Act. So these are provisions that allow you to save for kids in a trust account that's designed for them. So, you know, the two accounts that we just looked at, the 529 and the ESA accounts, those are accounts that are owned by the parents that then name a beneficiary. So, you know, Autumn with her daughters would open up a 529 account and she would name one of them as the beneficiary on that. What can happen though is say that, you know, one of Autumn's daughters doesn't need the money. What is allowed, like with a 529 plan, is she can change that beneficiary at any point in time. She owns the account, Autumn owns it. So she can change that beneficiary to her second child. You can change it back to yourself if you want to. We joke with people who have these accounts and can't get the money out in the past and say, hey, do you want to go back to school? So you can change that because you own it. With these UTMA and UGMA accounts, the minor is the owner of the account. So when they turn 18, and depending on the state you're in, this can vary a little bit too, but here in Arkansas, when they turn 18, that money is now theirs. So if they said, hey, I'm 19, that car down the road looks pretty good, I want to go buy it, that's their, you know, decision to make. So those funds become theirs. Now, in the time until they reach 18, you are allowed to use those funds for their benefit. So you can show that you're using the money, you know, for things that they're involved in or expenses that are related to them. But it's a little bit more specific because those funds are technically the child's assets on those accounts. So all personal preference here. We have, you know, a group of people in this office, and every one of these accounts I'm showing you, someone in the office uses. So everyone has their reasonings of why they do those. So just want to give you the list and you can kind of pick and choose. This last one, so this is the one I referenced earlier. So this is what's known as a non-qualified brokerage account. So you may have heard of this type of account before. This is not a college or child specific account. This is an account that anyone can open, anyone can save in. So you may have heard it under a joint account, trust account, TOD, transfer on death account. There's lots of names that you hear them go by. But essentially non-qualified means there aren't any tax advantages of using these types of accounts. But the benefit of these types of accounts is we can use them for anything. So say that you want to save for a child's car, but you know that's 10, 15 years away. You can do that in this type of account, still invest it, still hope for growth as we look at long-term investment. But there aren't any disadvantages as far as if you want to take that out at age 10 or age 12 for braces, a car, whatever those expenses may be, you can do that. You can also use this for any expenses you have come up. So we see people almost use these as secondary emergency funds, if you will. Like they have their set bank account that may be their emergency fund. They know over and above that, they're probably not going to need any of that money they save, but they want to save it in a way that they can get to it. This is an option for that. So that's another option.
Travis,
yeah.
Would you touch on, Carol wanted to know if that UTMA account, if there's any other advantages to those accounts, like tax advantages or anything like that. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So with the UDMA and UGMA accounts, it depends on, so again, these are trust accounts. Trust accounts generally rely on state laws. So you want to be looking at your specific state there. What I will tell you is there are some tax advantages to it. Again, the caveat there is it has to be used for the benefit of the minor and or it becomes theirs at 18. So that's really brief. Was it Carol Autumn that asked that?
Yeah, Carol. Yeah.
Carol, if you've got a specific situation that you want me to visit on that, guys, I know it sounds like we kind of dance around some of these questions. We just have to be careful about giving kind of blanket advice on some of these. But if there's a specific scenario you have of, hey, which of these accounts might be best for me? and this kind of goes to everybody. If you're looking at this list and you're going, I hear what you're saying, but here's my situation. What might you recommend? We are more than happy to help you think through that. But what I would just tell you is the main thing we hear from people is the point of consideration. That's what I'll say. The point of consideration is it is the child's asset and not yours. Is the main thing that you want to think about there. Any big questions? No, I ran through those 4 things pretty quickly. And again, I apologize for our power glitch there. But if you have any questions about those things, let us know. Here's the thing I'll land on. No matter which type of account you're trying to use, again, you've heard me say I use a combination of a couple of these. Try to begin with the end in mind. So what's your end goal? Are you trying to save for college? Are you trying to save for a car? Are you trying to save for a wedding? Whatever your end goal is, think through that a little bit of what you might want that to be, and then kind of work through beginning to decide which accounts will help you accomplish that. So, all right. So if there aren't any other questions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over to Autumn, and we're going to kind of talk through some really practical things of, all right, I've heard the nuts and bolts. I've heard all the stats. Give me the practical things I need to be thinking about as I do this. And I thought since Autumn has literally lived this and is living it, she could give you some thoughts on this. So Autumn, why don't you share a little?
I will. One thing I'll say, and I think people get hung up on this. Like I said, I haven't always been in this business, so I sit closer to where y'all sit than where Travis has a money mind. But I think people get hung up on how to save. They don't know the best route. I mean, what if my kid doesn't go to college? What if, we're not, and also no, we're not just talking about college. We're talking about cars. We're talking about kids are expensive. We're talking about sororities and college and anything else that goes along with kids, insurance. But I think people get hung up on the type of account. And so they get, and they, I don't, whether they're embarrassed to ask the questions or they don't have anybody to ask the right question to, they're like, I'll do it later. Or, my kid's 1, I've still got time. So that's what we're here for. I mean, if you have those questions, we can help you. Like Travis was saying, he's got something set up where he's got a combination of the 2. I've got 2 kids, one in college and one doesn't know if she wants to go to college. I still have savings for her. And I've done it in a way where she can use it for whatever she likes, but we can help you, talk through those things and come up with a good solution for you and your family and your situation. But that I wanted to make sure that I said that, because I know that was a thing for me, is that I wasn't sure exactly what to do or how to do it best for me and my family. So we can definitely talk through those things with you as far as that goes. I'm answering a question real quick. Can grandparents also use the account? It kind of depends on the account that you're talking about. There are some accounts the grandparent can set up accounts, their own custodial accounts, their own Coverdale accounts. They can be the beneficiary on those. Isn't that correct, Travis?
Yeah, and I'll say too, like with all of these accounts, there's a way for grandparents to be involved. So whether you're the one actually setting it up or if you're just helping fund it, like I know with the 529 plan in the state of Arkansas, it's as simple as there's a link that's specific to Lindsay's account. And so I can give that to my parents and my wife's parents and say, hey,
and they can be a depositor
or something. Yeah. Anytime you all want to give, they can deposit. So yes, there's a way for grandparents to be involved in any of these accounts. Like Autumn said, depends on the account. So if you've got one in mind, ask us. We're happy to help.
Yep, absolutely. So this slide really is good. We're talking about here, obviously, when's the best time to start saving? Ask me today, and I'll tell you yesterday. Like I said, I'm in the thick of it. So everybody's going to say, man, I wish I would have done this. I wish I would have done that. But also, nobody's ever going to say, man, I wish I hadn't saved that much. So start saving now. And this graphic here is just a a way to show you, hey man, yeah, you've got a kid that's 0 and they start saving $50 a month and shoving that into an account. And by the time they're ready for school, they're looking at $70,000. The longer you wait to do that, that chart there on the right, if you start at 0, you can put $50 in the account. But if you wait until they're 9, you've got to make up time. So you're having to put in, 100, almost $120 a month or a week, to get to where to the exact same place. So start early. I mean, you can look at accumulations over time, and they have those funky geeky calendars that you can plug in, that kind of stuff, where you can say, man, I don't have that. When your kids are little, you might not have a $50 a month to shove back into an account. So I mean, anything is going to help. You can throw $10, $15, $20 in there. Over time, that accumulation is what's going to help you in the end. So again, too, it's never too late to start. So if your kid is 15 and you haven't started yet, let's make up for some lost time. We can talk about trying to make up for lost time, what the best approach to that would be. So that's the kind of stuff we can talk through to you, but it's never too late to start. And it's definitely never too early to start. Important things to know, have a plan. I mean, that's one of those things where I would say, like I said, we can sit down and talk through the different accounts with you and what might work best for your family. But just have a plan, build out a timeline of what your goal is for your kids or for each kid. Like I said, I've got two kids, and one's in college and one doesn't know if she wants to go. So we're taking different approaches to them and saving for them, and what we're going to do with money that we have allotted for them. As far as education goes, if they don't use it for education, we're not just going to hand them a check for what we've got saved for them. We've got some intentional plans that we're making to take, to use that money and gift that to them and help them along the way. So start early. I know my daughter's a junior, but Carol's in the middle of all this too. I see Carol on the call. She's in the middle of this. She's visiting colleges. That's what we're doing right now. You kind of start thinking about this stuff in high school. They start pushing the tours and the ACTs and all that fun stuff. So the earlier you can get started and start wrapping your brain around, okay, how do I want to approach this? I know I need to, have a checklist. Like I know I need to do XYZ. The better off you'll be, the better prepared you are. And also for your child, I mean, your child, they sit and listen to counselors talk about this stuff all day long. It goes in one ear and out the other. They're not going to take the initiative to set up campus tours or set up an extra ACT test because they need 1 point for that scholarship. So you kind of got to take the reins and do that for them, which is, our job as parents to guide them. And depending on what kind of counselor you have at your kid's school, they can be very helpful in that sense too. Some of them are really good, some of them aren't so good. So, take the reins and try to help them out if you can, because the earlier the better. These other things, I'll touch on those. You never want to, expect or count on these things that I'm about to talk about just because you can plan on something all day long. You want to plan for what you know and let the other stuff fall into place. But the FAFSA, that's just it's something that you're going to fill out, an application that you'll fill out for grant, scholarships, anything. Anybody that's going to college has to do that. You've got to have that on file. My daughter's in 11th grade. We've already done that for her. She's starting to put in her information for ACTs and college, transcripts and things like that to be sent to FAFSA so that she can be considered for the Arkansas scholarships and all that fun stuff. So start that, know about that, find out more about that. Expected contributions. You may have a grandparent that said, hey, I'm covering all the grandkids for college. And that's great. And that's specific to your situation. There's other things that you're going to want to pay for that is not college related for your kids. So saving for kids just isn't all about education. So if they've said, hey, we're going to we're going to cover college. That's awesome. Can I adopt them? But there's other things that you're going to need money for, and other things that we can talk through it as far as what you're expecting to have to spend and pay for. Grants, loans, scholarships, all those things are wonderful. Scholarships are great, but I mean, what happens to the kid that has a scholarship and the second semester they lose it? You got to take into consideration that stuff. Loans and grants. Loans, I mean, you don't want your kid to have to take out a loan that they're going to pay till they're 50 if you don't have to. So that's why we're trying to do this planning. So just trying to get
Really
you prepared and get your, go ahead.
I was going to say really quickly on some of that, just be aware. So like that expected family contribution, like Autumn said, some of that is like, hey, if we've got an outside source of someone who saves some money, we need to be aware of that. The other flip side of that is when you're going through a lot of the financial aid, again, we're going to give you the things right here to think through and to ask the questions about. I tell people this is the area because I've worked in it a little bit. I'm a little dangerous because I want to say too much, but the reality is speak to someone on campus that knows this year's situation. But find the financial aid office, but that expected family contribution, some of that is actually calculated off of what do they expect that the parent should be able to pay. So some of that is based off of your income and some of those things. So you want to know that number because that's going to affect some of the other things below that. So their ability to get grants and loans and scholarships. Some of that is affected by that information on the FAFSA, the EFC information, those kind of things. So right. You can never ask too many questions of financial aid. Every financial aid director out there just shook their head at me. But you can never ask too many questions about that. Okay, it's complicated. Paying for school is not easy. It's hard enough for us to just save, much less work our way through what loan or grant or scholarship they may be available to them. So ask a lot of questions and make sure you have at least basic understanding of how that's going to function. But like Autumn said, I think the biggest thing is plan as if you might not have it. And again, if that's $10 a month, that's $10 a month. Start somewhere, but plan as if you might not have it. And then if you do, hopefully you can use some of those funds to help in a different way. So
right. Yep. Ask questions. And like, Travis said, he worked through his school with all that stuff. So he's been in the middle of that. I was super intimidated when I was that age and I didn't have a parent to help me with all that stuff and financial aid and who to ask and who to talk to. And so it was super confusing and it probably limited my ability to do the things that I wanted to do. But so ask questions. There's, they've been asked before and they can help with things that you don't know the answers to. Same thing with us. I mean, we couldn't come to your job and do your job. So we would have to ask you jobs. We don't expect you to know the answers to what we do for a living and they don't either. So ask for help. This here, I'm in the middle of this. So I'm guilty of this and I am ashamed of myself. But like I said, I've not been in this business. I've been in this business about 18 years, but I didn't start out knowing what I know now. But so this has taken, retirement accounts. A lot of people look at those as safety nets. Oh man, I've got 400,000 in my retirement account. If I need to, I'll just pull out from there if I need to fund my kids' college or if we're short or whatever. But that's not what they're designed for. Obviously, they're called retirement accounts for a reason, because at some point you can't work anymore or you don't want to work anymore and you want that money to be there for you so that you can do that. But this is just a snapshot of what happens if I'm 50 years old and my kid comes to me and says, hey, I decided I'm going to go to UCA and I didn't get a scholarship, but blah blah blah, and you go take $60,000 out of your retirement account. Man, $60,000 is, it doesn't seem like a lot in the grand scheme of things if you've got 400 and something thousand, but when you put that, you take that and you project that out over time and what that loss looks like, it's huge. So just to the age of 65 from 50, you're talking about almost $162,000 worth of accumulating monies that you would lose. And then if you project that out all the way to age 90, or 440,000 worth of monies that you would lose just for pulling that chunk out to. So, I mean, like I said, people do it. I've done it. I'm guilty of it. It's not ideal. So that's why we say, start planning yesterday, start chunking $20 in an account. Kids' birthdays, they give your 2-year-old $50 for their birthday. They don't need $50. Throw it in their account and save it for them. Give your kid the opportunity to choose college if that's what they want to do. But all that to say is the effort is not to use your retirement funds for college. Travis, you want to chime in on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think you did a great job of touching on it. We work with a lot of folks, whether it's 401ks, whether it's, individual accounts. We very rarely hear people say, I save too much for retirement, kind of like Autumn said earlier. We run into people all the time that said, I didn't save enough. What we see in the industry, if you look at statistics, and again, like Autumn said, I'm the numbers nerd, but if you look at statistics, we have a ton of people who are having trouble retiring and or making it through their retirement because they've had a really good heart, they had really good intentions, but they helped their kids along the way. And now 15 to 20 years later, it's really affecting their ability to retire and or make it through retirement. And so just keep that in mind. When I see this chart, I know a lot of times people go, yeah, but I want to help my kids. And I'm like, that's fantastic. That comes from a great place and a great heart that you want to help. And there is nothing wrong with that. What we don't want to do is we don't want to jeopardize your long-term savings, because the reality is at the end of this chart, I mean, if you look at assets, instead of lasting until age 90, they last until 86. What we see on that 4 years, who makes that up? A lot of the times it's the kids. It's the kids that we were trying to help initially that then have to turn around and help us because of some of those decisions. So it's not always as black and white as I'll help now and I'll figure it out later. Most of the time, what we see is sometimes if you help too early or too quickly or too far, the kids can actually end up having to help you again anyways on the back end. So like Autumn said, life happens, there may be a situation where you have to touch your retirement funds to help some kids. If you do, please let us come alongside you and think through that, because there can be ways to think through that and minimize the impact to your planning by taking it, just per year or a little bit at a time or things like that. So let us help come alongside, do some of this forecasting for you and help you think through that the best you can. So really quickly, just wanted to kind of touch on with you guys the recap of what we talked about today. I know we've talked really high level. I totally get that. Again, what we're trying to do is give you some of the things to think about, some of the accounts that are out there that you can use, some of the things to think about as far as what do you need to be asking when you go to a campus tour, financial aid, some of those things, and then thinking through the retirement plan piece of your retirement account. With all that being said, if you have individual questions, please reach out to us. We're about to give you our contact info. If you just want to hear our story and kind of what we're doing, we're happy to share that with you some more too. But to recap a little bit today, begin with the end in mind. And we can apply that literally to any financial topic you bring to us, whether it's saving for kids, whether it's saving for your own retirement or your own goals. What's the end goal? Okay, well, let's reverse engineer back into that of what do we need to do now to hit that goal? So kind of begin with the end in mind. What's your goal? And that'll direct you of what accounts to use and how much to save. You can still save for kids who don't plan to attend college. So even if they don't want to go or don't have any aspirations to go, but you still want to help them along in life, just like that brokerage account, there are things out there you can do to save for kids. I know, way back in my day, it was the savings bonds and it was all those types of things. There are ways you can save for kids if you want to do that. Like Autumn said, start saving early, never too late to start. build that timeline. So if your kid's a sophomore or even younger, start to think about what's my timeline? When do I need to start? When do I need to have the FAFSA completed so that I can apply for all these things? If you literally will physically draw yourself a timeline on a piece of paper, that can be really helpful. And then, like we talked about, ask a lot of questions and try to avoid using those retirement accounts if possible. So with that being said, we're going to let you guys ask some questions. I know we're about 15 minutes left here in our hour. As you guys are thinking of questions and typing those in, I just want to remind you, this is just one of the webinars that we've done this year. So if any of these on the screen, you can see all the ones that we're doing here in-house in our Little Rock office, as well as our quarterly market updates to give you an idea of what's kind of gone on in the economy and the market the last quarter. You can find all of these on our website. So if you go, and it's one coming up in the future, so say the Medicare and Social Security one is really interesting to you, or you're like, oh, I don't understand that. We've got a guy in our office that does a very good job of breaking that down very practically of what do I need to know. So if you want to register for that, if you go to our website, the button says register. If on the flip side, you would like to understand more about Roth and pre-tax savings, when you go to our website, it's going to say watch. And so the recording is going to be there for you. So same thing with this one. If you want to go back and watch it, give us a few days and that recording will be up there as well. And then you can see there at the bottom, if there's anything we can help you with financially, reach out to us. That's literally what we love to do, is come alongside you guys and help any way we can. So with that being said, I'm going to be quiet for a second. I'm going to pop some contact information up here. Autumn, we have any questions that have come in?
Not yet.
Okay. I want to thank you guys again for taking some time today to jump on, or if you're watching this later, to take some time to watch it. Sorry for our power snafu. That's a first, I think, since I've been in this
difficulties.
Building. So, yeah. So, but thank you all so much for jumping on. I'm going to go back. I know a couple of you asked some specific questions I said I would follow up on. So we'll get those followed up for you. And we'll reach out to you on those. If you think of any questions later, feel free to email me. Here's my direct email. Like I said, you can go to our website. If you scan this QR code, it'll actually give you all of my information. You see it there on the left-hand side of the screen, kind of my personal little website. So any way we can help, please reach out. Myself, Brennan, Jason, Jonathan, Autumn, Lori, Heath. We really, really appreciate you guys. So let us know if we can help. But other than that, I think we don't have any more questions. We'll let you guys have a few minutes back in your day. So all good, Autumn? All clear?
Yep, we're good.
All right. Well, y'all have a wonderful day, and thank you again for joining us.
Thank you. You're welcome, Francis. Me too, Jennifer. Me too, girl. Jennifer says thank you. It's great info, and she wished she had it earlier. Preach, sister.
All right, guys. Thank y'all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.